Join me in this video as I figure out what on earth I'm doing with my life. Okay, semi-true. This video is about my entrepreneurial journey, but not just all the glitz and glam. I'm going to talk about the highs and lows of not just entrepreneurship in general, but also the different routes that I took to get to where I am now. If you're new here, my name is Amy. I like to do a lot of different things. I've got kind of crazy hair and I like speaking to people too. My first entrepreneurial experience was just after my placement year back at university. I started a brand called Mazzy. It was like an environmental t-shirt business. I had really cool designs and also wanted to raise awareness for different issues through the use of art and environmentally friendly clothing. This was a really cool experience and I actually was able to sell the t-shirts. I think my expectations were not very realistic. I had been on Instagram a lot and seeing all these businesses blow up kind of out of the blue, or so I thought, not realizing that perhaps those entrepreneurs had tried and failed many times before that. So I think I gave myself very unrealistic expectations, but looking back, it was a really good journey. I built the business in about 6 weeks, which is kind of crazy when I think about it. I also managed to enter I didn't realize it was a competition at the start, but it was actually this entrepreneurial event that just managed to be a competition at the same time. Because I was against really big companies like HSBC, the Army, and all these different projects and other companies that were far more established than me, I kind of just thought, well, you know what, I'm not going to win anything. I might as well just give it a go, try my best. At the end, I ended up getting my name on my brand called out as a highly recommended award, which I was super taken back by. Didn't expect it at all, but it just goes to show that actually not all my work was going unnoticed. With Mazzy, I created the business entirely. I had to build a website, I had to research and source all the materials, the manufacturers, the suppliers, things like that. And it was a really good learning experience. So why didn't you continue with Mazzy, you may ask? Well, when I finished university, I remember thinking that I really wanted to give myself exposure to other industries and other kind of jobs and experiences before just pursuing with this. You can argue maybe I was a bit all over the place, but I was 22 or 23 years old and I still wanted that kind of adventure. Yes, there was some conflictions and I thought, why didn't you just continue with it, Amy? Why didn't you do it? But at the same time, I've actually always had it in my heart that I will one day bring Mazzy back. It's just at that time it wasn't for me, and looking back now, all those unique experiences I have, I've got great skills from them and I have no regrets. So I actually became a carer for a little bit, and then after a while I thought, you know what, I kind of want to delve into the entrepreneurial space again. So I decided to hand in my notice for my care role and pursue Mazzy Mental Health. This wasn't so much a business because I didn't feel like having the pressure on me at that point. I wanted to try and really get exposure to creating a good brand. So I built the website, I did my research, I started promoting it, but I actually ended up getting offered a job as I built the website for another role that I really wanted. And with some thought, I realized that actually it's a good time for me to take that role. So that's what happened with Mazzy Mental Health. You may have heard the phrase, don't be afraid to fail. I think looking back, I do feel quite proud of myself, even though some things weren't clearly thought through. I think the exposure I got from building websites and doing all that branding and research is only something that's just going to help me going forward. So yeah, that was Mazzy Mental Health. So starting getting there with Amy Claire was kind of a funny story, because I knew that I was struggling on social media, so I came off all that because I just really felt the pressure, especially after graduation. I saw people buying houses, getting all these nice grad jobs, new cars, etc. And I just had none of that. And I know I'm not alone in that, but it's just how I felt at the time. So I wanted that real kind of authentic experience by speaking to people about their life stories. And I thought, you know what, I'd have these conversations anyway, but I thought, why not just record it? I purchased some mics, which I actually still use today, and I set out to find guests. How did I get these guests? A lot of them were friends or people I knew already, so I just contacted them and asked them if they would like to be on the podcast. Again, if you don't ask, you just don't get. So started pursuing that. It was really good fun, but it was a lot of work. For this podcast, I travelled around Ireland and the UK, speaking to lots of different people from different age groups and backgrounds and all sorts, which I absolutely loved. And it was a really fun experience, to be honest, as well. It didn't come without issues, and I have to say the editing experience was not particularly fun. I didn't know what I was doing. I definitely didn't do things optimally, but there we go, we live and learn. I say when it comes to entrepreneurship, think of the amount of time and effort you need to create a project and then quadruple it, because just a lot of things happen that you don't foresee, and it's all a part of the journey and the learning experience. But yes, there is a lot to learn. The plan was to do 10 episodes, but it actually got cut short because of lockdown. It was a great experience nonetheless. I got to speak to amazing different people, learning their stories, and it definitely helped me get more of a healthy perspective on what life's about and the struggles and the highs and lows that people go through. I must say that this podcast wasn't all about just learning about people's lows or anything like that. It's not what it's about. I just wanted real storytelling and honesty about how people got to where they are now. And that's exactly where I got. And that brings me to here. So launching season 2 and putting everything on YouTube. Why now? I knew I wanted to do season 2. For me, the feedback I got from season 1 was really, really positive. I didn't think it was going to be that positive. I didn't think it was going to be that interesting to people. I know that might sound bad and I'm trying to put my podcast down, but I just did it for me as a passion project from the start. So then I realized that perhaps this podcast could eventually become a business endeavor and I could eventually monetize it. So that brings me to here, launching season 2 and essentially creating a YouTube platform to do these videos. Now, if any of you have any experience with filming, you'll know that it is a lot of work and the editing side and all that is a whole different new realm. It's not just audio editing now, it's now the visual side. Although the editing is technically more work, I did find it more fun because I do like the visuals and I can play around with it and be a bit more creative. So that's just a bit about the kind of entrepreneurial journeys that I've had. In terms of the general highs and lows of entrepreneurship, this is what I would have to say. Starting with the lows, I'd say the first and obvious is the amount of hours you need to put in. It's a massive project. There's so many different components, especially if you're just starting off and you're learning all these different things in these different areas. It is a lot of work and will take a lot of your time and effort. To go off that, I would also say the hours. If you're more of a structured person that really values routine, the entrepreneurial lifestyle may not be for you. It's not as simple as just working 9 to 5 like you normally would in any other job. It's one of those things where you might have to work really irregular hours and long hours, especially at the beginning. The second big one, of course, is financial instability. Quitting your job to pursue an entrepreneurial endeavor means that you're no longer earning that stable monthly income. Some of you might have access to grants and things like that, but in my case, I quit my job. I was lucky enough to have savings to do so, but I was no longer earning that monthly income that I had. But for me personally, the longer hours and the financial instability wasn't actually the hardest part. The most overwhelming part was actually the information overload, specifically coming through feedback from lots and lots of different people. If you are at like an event with lots of people, you are naturally going to be bombarded with comments and opinions. And even though that's really, really good at times and it's a great learning opportunity, it can naturally be a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of people will tell you need to do this, you should do this needs to be done. And a lot of them do have a really good point. So that's very much taken on board. But remember, when you're having hundreds of different people in one day tell you this, sometimes it can just really overwhelm me. This may not be the case for everyone, as a lot of people are very extroverted and they love speaking to people regularly and can perhaps have more capacity to take on more feedback. But for me, I'm extremely ambiverted. So as much as I love speaking to people, sometimes my energy can get depleted quite easily if I'm engaging with too many people in one day. From me speaking to different entrepreneurs, they've also agreed that they can find it quite daunting when they receive too much feedback, especially when different people tell you different things and therefore there's a contradiction. But now for the joys of entrepreneurship. The first one is independence. With entrepreneurship, there is naturally a lot of freedom. So unlike a 9 to 5 where there's usually a hierarchy or a management system, with entrepreneurship, you are your own boss. Therefore, you technically can work your own hours and days. I personally love freedom and I love the independence and flexibility to be able to work on my own hours and on my own terms to get the job done. The second one is creativity. Going off my first point, you are your own boss and therefore you do have the creative freedom specifically to inject into your business endeavor. I personally love injecting my creative stamp into things, be it marketing, editing, you name it. So for me, creativity is really, really important for me to pursue in anything I do. The third perk of entrepreneurship is one that may be obvious to some, which is the potential for high reward. I mentioned before that being an entrepreneur can be risky because you are injecting your finances, your time and effort, and no guarantee that it will pay off. However, the perk of entrepreneurship is that it might just pay off. And if it does, it can pay off big. You just have to look at people like Ben Francis, who founded Gymshark. He started off creating and designing t-shirts in his garage with his friend, but I think he was 17 years old, and now he's a multi-billionaire. If you are successful, the reward is often far bigger than if you are working in a normal conventional setting. So it just depends on what risks you're willing to take and what suits you. But yeah, that's me and my entrepreneurial journey so far. Who knows where this will go in the future? Hopefully good things will come. I certainly have a different mindset now to where I was before. As much as I'm still learning now, I do find that going through those different endeavors that I did pursue has given me a bit more focus now through that learning. So I'm certainly seeing things as a bit more of a long-term opportunity, and I have a lot more patience and understanding of what needs to be done. Well, that's it for me in this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to like, comment below. And if you didn't, well, I guess I'll try it better next time.